In the quiet, warm hours before dawn on an April night in 1476, in Florence, Italy, officers of the Office of the Night arrested a young Leonardo da Vinci. What was the artist famous for the Mona Lisa accused of? Sodomy.
Going back into Leonardo's biography, in 1476, when he was a young man, 24, he was accused of committing homosexual acts with someone in Florence. He was never prosecuted, he was never found guilty.
Yes, you heard it right, folks. The Mona Lisa painter-inventor and one of the most brilliant minds in history found himself in the middle of a scandal that could have derailed his career. But was he really guilty? Is there anything we know about Leonardo's relationships and personal life? Join us as we unravel the mysteries that surround Leonardo da Vinci's sex life and his complex perception of sexuality. 15th century Florence was rampant with sodomy. How rampant, you ask? Sodomy was so common in Florence that the German slang for homosexual was Florenzer. To deal with this, the city established the Office of the Night. Yes, that's what it was called, in 1432 to independently police same-sex relations. The city had designated letterboxes in the streets where residents could drop anonymous tips to help the moral police in administering their duties. On that fateful night, they were acting on a tip-off dropped in the town hall, accusing 4 men of indulging in sodomy with Jacopo Saltarelli, a male prostitute well known to the authorities. Among the 4 accused of being party to wretched affairs was, well, you guessed it, Leonardo da Vinci. He was never convicted, as the charges were dropped a week later on the grounds that no further accusations appeared in the letterboxes. Sodomy was a capital offense at that time, and had Leonardo been convicted, he might not have lived to paint the Mona Lisa. While no conviction was made, this might have been the turning point for da Vinci that shaped the rest of his relationships. Historians suggest that it was at this moment that the renowned artist decided to be secretive with his personal life. Following the dismissal, da Vinci went on to lead an intensely private life, never writing about his personal affairs, and even using encoded language in his journals to add an extra layer of protection to his privacy. The ordeal turned out to be bittersweet, as the scandal pushed him to accept work outside Florence, such as in Milan, where he created some of his best works. Talk about silver linings. We can't talk about Leonardo's relationships and not mention Salai. Leonardo da Vinci and Gian Giacomo Caprotti, better known as Salai, which translates to Little Devil in Italian, had one of the most chaotic, frustrating, yet strangely enduring relationships in history.
His real name was Gian Giacomo Caprotti da Arena, but Leonardo nicknamed him Salai, which means Little Devil or Little Unclean One.
Picture this. In 1490, a 10-year-old Salai enters Leonardo's workshop as an apprentice and immediately starts stealing everything in sight. Within his first year, Leonardo writes that the boy had robbed him at least 5 times, including pocketing expensive silver coins meant for art supplies. And yet, Leonardo keeps him around for 25 years. Why? In addition to that, the name Salai appears more than any other in all of Leonardo's journals. At this point, it is safe to say they became more than pupil and teacher. Leonardo dressed him in fine, extravagant clothing, even when he couldn't afford to, and painted his mischievous features into some of his most famous works, possibly even the Mona Lisa. Leonardo even left half of his vineyard to Salai. Their bond was strange but undeniable. It is clear that Salai was more than just a troublemaker. He was Leonardo's muse, his model, and maybe even something more. He was the inspiration behind several paintings, including St. John the Baptist and Bacchus, both of which have a certain seductive charm. Whether their relationship was romantic or just a deep, lifelong bond, there's no doubt that Salai was one of the most important people in Leonardo's life. If Leonardo da Vinci's life had a cast of characters, Francesco Melzi would be the quiet, dependable one who actually held everything together. While Salai was off being a lovable disaster, stealing, starting fights, and testing Leonardo's patience, Francesco was the responsible one, making sure things didn't completely spiral out of control. Francesco came into Leonardo's life in 1506 as a well-mannered, intelligent teenager from a noble family. Unlike Salai, who probably saw rules as optional suggestions, Francesco was disciplined, eager to learn, and actually respectful. He wasn't just another apprentice. he became Leonardo's right-hand man, helping him document discoveries, organize endless notebooks, and make sense of the genius-level chaos that was his mind. And while Salai brought drama, Francesco brought loyalty. When Leonardo moved to France in his later years, Francesco didn't hesitate. He followed him, staying by his side through everything. And when Leonardo passed away in 1519, he didn't leave his most valuable manuscripts to Salai, his longtime companion and occasional headache. He left them to Francesco, the one he knew would protect his work and legacy. What was their relationship exactly? We don't know for sure. But what's clear is that Leonardo chose Francesco, not for mischief, not for entertainment, but for trust, understanding, and a shared dedication to knowledge. And without him, we might not even have half of Leonardo's work today. If Salai was the wild chapter of Leonardo's life, Francesco was the thoughtful, meaningful conclusion. Let's talk about Leonardo da Vinci's art and notebooks. And let's be honest, some of it definitely raises eyebrows. First up, his writings. Leonardo wrote thousands of pages about everything: anatomy, engineering, birds in flight, the reflection of light on water. But guess what's missing? Love letters and anything about women. He once called sex disgusting and described reproduction so clinically, you'd think he was giving a lecture on human biology. For a man who studied human expression so deeply, he seemed remarkably uninterested in romance, at least with women. His notebooks, filled with groundbreaking ideas, also contain sketches that hint at his personal curiosities. Among the meticulous anatomical drawings and inventions are delicate, intimate studies of male figures. Some seem purely scientific, but others, especially the more private sketches, suggest a fascination that goes beyond mere observation. These pages provide an unfiltered look into Leonardo's mind, where art, science, and perhaps his own suppressed desires intertwined. Now, onto his art. Have you ever noticed that Leonardo's men are, well, pretty? His depictions of Saint John the Baptist, Bacchus, and even some of his angels have soft features, teasing smiles, and an almost otherworldly beauty. And fun fact, a lot of historians think they bear a suspicious resemblance to Salai, his chaotic thieving apprentice. Coincidence? Maybe. But the pattern repeats again and again. Oh, and let's not forget the not-so-subtle sketches hidden in his notebooks. Let's just say some of those male nude studies weren't strictly for anatomical purposes. They weren't meant for public eyes, which makes them all the more intriguing. So, was Leonardo giving us hints? If he was, he did it like he did everything else, with genius, mystery, and just enough ambiguity to keep us wondering centuries later. His art is full of secrets, and whether they reveal the truth or just reflect our own curiosity, we'll probably never know for sure. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. What if, after all the rumors, all the speculation, all the Salai drama, Leonardo da Vinci was actually celibate? I know. How could someone who painted such sensual, lifelike figures of men and women just not be interested in sex? But hear me out. Leonardo was not your average Renaissance guy. While most men his age were getting married and having kids, he was out there dissecting cadavers, sketching war machines, and trying to figure out how birds fly. Maybe romance just wasn't on his to-do list. Plus, he straight up wrote that sex was disgusting. His own words. Now, either he had some bad experiences, or he just thought humans had better things to do than waste time on relationships. This is the guy who was obsessed with perfection. Maybe love and sex were just too messy for him. Or maybe, for someone who saw the world in mathematical precision and divine proportions, physical desire just didn't fit into the equation. Let's be honest. Have you ever tried focusing on work while being wrapped up in a complicated relationship? Imagine Leonardo, deep in thought, sketching out the design for a flying machine, only to realize Salai has just swiped his last few coins. Who has the patience for that? Leonardo da Vinci was a genius, a mystery, and maybe even a bit of a troublemaker in his own right. His personal life is still up for debate. Was he in love? Was he too busy sketching flying machines to care? Who knows? But what we do know is that his impact is undeniable. His art, his inventions, his wild ideas that were centuries ahead of his time, Those are what define him. Whatever the truth about his relationships, Leonardo's real love affair was with knowledge, and that's what makes him one of the most fascinating people to ever walk this earth. So was he secretly in love with men? Maybe. Was he just too busy being a genius to care? Also very possible. Whatever the case, Leonardo took his secrets to the grave, leaving us 500 years later still trying to figure him out. If you loved unraveling this one, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest secrets.